Clinton, Missouri, 1991. A small town where nothing bad was supposed to happen. Until one night, 20-year-old Angela Hammond picked up a payphone to call her fiancé. In the middle of their conversation, her voice changed. She was nervous. A strange man in a green pickup was circling the lot. Moments later, Rob heard her scream through the line, and then silence. When he arrived, the phone was still swinging, but Angela was gone. What followed was one of America's most haunting mysteries: a missing woman, a suspicious truck, and a trail of fear that still lingers to this day. Clinton, Missouri, April 4th, 1991. It was the kind of night that small towns are built. The spring air was cool, the streets were quiet, and the downtown square glowed under soft yellow streetlights. In Clinton, nothing bad ever happened. Or at least, that's what people like to believe. Angela Hammond, just 20 years old, believed that too. She was young, vibrant, and full of life. She had a smile that could light up a room, and laughter that made others laugh along. She wasn't just a daughter, a friend, or a neighbor. She was a soon-to-be mother. Angela was 4 months pregnant, and she and her fiancé, Rob Schaefer, were excitedly planning their future together. That Thursday evening started like so many others. Angela and Rob attended a barbecue with friends. They laughed, talked about the baby, and enjoyed the calm Missouri night. Around 10 p.m., Angela dropped Rob off at his mother's house. He had an early fishing trip planned for the next morning, but the young couple didn't want the night to end. Angela promised to call Rob later, just to talk before bed. It was one of those sweet, ordinary things couples do. Around 11:15 p.m., Angela stopped at a payphone outside a convenience store in the center of town. This was 1991. No cell phones. Payphones were where secrets were shared, goodnights were said, and promises were made. Angela dialed Rob's number. On the other end, Rob picked up, happy to hear her voice. For several minutes, they talked about the night, about the baby, about nothing and everything. Just two young people in love. It was supposed to be an ordinary call, but it became the last time anyone heard from Angela Hammond. As they spoke, Angela's tone shifted. She told Rob about something unsettling. Man was near the payphone. He was circling the lot, looking suspicious. She described him as a scruffy stranger with a beard and glasses, driving a green pickup truck with a decal in the back window. Rob, half asleep but concerned, told her to stay on the line. Angela laughed. Nervously, "He's acting weird," she said. Then, silence for a moment. Suddenly, Rob heard a terrifying sound through the phone. Angela screamed. The line went chaotic, noise, muffled sounds. Then nothing. Rob froze. Did he just hear his pregnant fiancé being abducted in real time? He didn't hesitate. He jumped into his car and raced toward the payphone Angela had called from. But what he found would haunt him forever. When Rob reached the payphone minutes later, Angela was gone. The phone dangled from its cord, swinging gently in the night breeze. The quiet Clinton Square suddenly felt like a nightmare. Angela Hammond had vanished, and the only witness to her abduction was the man she loved. The clock had just passed midnight in Clinton, Missouri. What should have been an ordinary Thursday night had turned into a nightmare. Minutes earlier, Rob Schaefer had been talking to his pregnant fiancée on the phone. Now standing at the payphone in the deserted town square, he found nothing but silence. The phone dangled, swaying back and forth as if mocking him. Angela Hammond was gone. Rob didn't waste a second. As he sped toward the square, he thought, He caught sight of a green pickup truck matching Angela's description. Without thinking, he floored the accelerator and gave chase. For a few desperate miles, it was a blur of headlights and heartbeats. Rob's only thought was, "I have to save her," but tragedy struck. His car engine sputtered and failed. The chase was over. The truck disappeared into the Missouri darkness. Rob sat helpless, pounding the steering wheel, knowing he had just lost Angela for good. Shaking with fear, Rob made it to the nearest phone and dialed police. Within minutes, Clinton officers were dispatched to the square. But what they found was chillingly little: the payphone, the dangling receiver, and silence. Angela Hammond had vanished into thin air. Word spread quickly through Clinton. This was a small, tight-knit town where everyone knew everyone else. Abductions didn't happen here. Not to local girls. Not to someone like Angela. By dawn, volunteers, friends, and neighbors were flooding the streets. Search parties scoured fields, back roads, and wooded areas. Police set up checkpoints, questioning drivers in and out of town. But there was no sign of Angela. In the days that followed, a few witnesses came forward. One had seen a green pickup truck in the square around the time Angela vanished. Another described the scruffy man with glasses loitering near the Payphone. The description matched what Angela had told Rob on the phone: a stranger circling the lot, watching her. Who was he? And why had he chosen her? For Angela's family, the search was unbearable. Her mother clutched photographs of her daughter, begging the community for help. Her father walked fields and ditches with a flashlight, refusing to give up. They weren't just searching for Angela. They were searching for their grandchild too, a baby who had never been given a chance at life. Days turned into weeks. The searches grew wider. The tips poured in. But there was no trace of Angela. It was as if she had vanished off the face of the earth. And then whispers began. Not about a stranger, but about whether someone closer to Angela might know more than they were saying. The search for Angela Hammond was only days old, but already cracks were forming. The police had no body, no crime scene, no suspect in custody. All they had were pieces of a puzzle that refused to fit. And in small towns like Clinton, when answers are scarce, suspicions grow louder. At first, the story seemed simple. Angela had been taken by a stranger in a green pickup truck. But investigators began asking hard questions. Why had Rob's car conveniently broken down when he was chasing the truck? Why hadn't anyone else seen this dramatic chase through town? And why was he the last person to hear Angela's voice before she vanished? For detectives, it was instinct. The fiancés always looked at first. Rob told police everything. How Angela called him at the payphone. How she described the suspicious man. How she screamed and the line went dead. How he jumped in his car to chase the truck but broke down. But details began to clash. Mechanics inspected Rob's car and said the failure was odd, almost too convenient. Neighbors questioned why nobody else noticed the chase. And then there was the emotional factor. Could a young man under pressure, with a pregnant fiancé, have snapped? The whispers began. Maybe it wasn't a stranger at all. Maybe it was him. For Rob, the suspicion was unbearable. He loved Angela. They were planning a family, a life together. Now, instead of searching for her, he was forced to defend himself. Media painted him as the young fiancé under suspicion. Detectives interrogated him for hours, picking apart every second of his story. Friends began to wonder, Had they really known him? But Angela's family stood by him. They believed Rob. They had to. Still, the description Angela gave couldn't be ignored. A scruffy man, glasses, a beard. A green pickup truck with a decal in the back window. It was too specific. Too vivid to dismiss. And others in town backed it up. Witnesses reported a similar truck prowling around Clinton in the weeks before Angela's disappearance. One woman even claimed she saw the same man harassing another girl near the phone booths days earlier. If this was true, then Angela's abduction wasn't random. It was planned. By the summer of 1991, the investigation stood at a crossroads. Theory 1, Rob was involved. Theory 2, a stranger in the green pickup was stalking Clinton's women. Both seemed possible. Both seemed impossible. And without Angela, there was no way to prove either. For the people of Clinton, the uncertainty was devastating. Parents locked their doors at night, afraid to let their daughters out alone. Men eyed one another suspiciously. Who could be trusted? Was the abductor living among them? Angela Hammond's disappearance had torn apart the peace of their small town. Every glance, every whisper, every green truck that passed by, all carried fear. And then, just as the case seemed to stall, investigators stumbled upon something chilling. Angela's abduction may not have been an isolated crime. In fact, there were other women, other abductions, other attacks. Could Clinton be facing a predator who had struck before and might strike again? As the days turned into weeks, Angela Hammond's disappearance refused to fade. Her smiling face was on posters across Clinton, Missouri. Her story had spread to every corner of town. But beneath the heartbreak, a new kind of fear began to take hold. Because Angela's case didn't seem to stand alone, investigators started looking at surrounding towns. What they found sent shivers down their spines. Just months earlier, in nearby Max Creek, a young woman reported being followed by a man in a green truck. In another small town, a woman claimed a stranger in glasses had pulled up beside her, asking unsettling questions. And years before, in a county not far from Clinton, a teenage girl had gone missing under mysterious circumstances. The details were eerily familiar. The descriptions, too close to ignore. It was as if a shadow had been lurking across Missouri for years, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The theory sent waves of panic through Clinton. What if Angela's abduction wasn't an isolated tragedy? What if it was part of a pattern, the work of a predator who had been stalking women across the region? The thought alone was chilling. Because if true, Angela's disappearance might not be the end. It could be the beginning. By mid-1991, the case had grown too big for local police alone. The FBI stepped in, reviewing files, questioning suspects, and building psychological profiles. Their conclusion was unsettling. Angela's case bore the hallmarks of a repeat offender. Someone methodical, someone patient, someone who knew how to hide in plain sight. The green truck became their symbol of fear, a ghost on wheels, haunting every highway and back road in Missouri. For Angela's family, these revelations were a double-edged sword. On one hand, it meant Rob wasn't the only suspect, that maybe he truly was innocent. On the other, it meant Angela had likely fallen into the hands of a predator who had done this before. Her mother's voice cracked in interviews. If this man has taken other girls, then how many families are like us, waiting, praying, never knowing? It was a question no one wanted to answer. The once quiet town of Clinton had transformed. women refused to go out alone at night. Parents escorted their daughters everywhere. Every passing truck was watched. Every stranger was suspect. The air carried tension, a kind of fear that creeps into your bones and won't leave. But then, a chilling lead emerged, a composite sketch. A face that multiple witnesses described, glasses, a beard. The man Angela had described before she was taken. It was the face of the stranger. And it looked frighteningly familiar to some in the area. Could the abductor have been hiding in plain sight all along? The summer of 1991 was heavy in Clinton, Missouri. The search for Angela Hammond was still alive, but so was the fear that had settled over the town. And then, investigators revealed something that electrified the case. A face. The face of the man Angela had described on the phone, moments before she screamed and vanished. Using Rob's testimony, combined with witness accounts from that night, police artists created a composite drawing. A middle-aged man, glasses, scruffy beard, an unsettling expression, as if the man knew he was being remembered. When the sketch was shown on local news, it sent shivers through Missouri. For some, it was the first time the faceless predator haunting their nights finally had eyes. For others, it looked disturbingly familiar. Tips flooded in. A local handyman, known for his erratic behavior, a drifter who had been seen at bars in Clinton weeks before the abduction, even a former convict who had once driven a green pickup truck. Each name was checked, interrogated, investigated. But each time, the leads fizzled out. It was like chasing smoke. Every suspect seemed to dissolve before the truth could be grasped. Meanwhile, the focus on the truck grew stronger. Witnesses insisted it had a decal in the back window, possibly of a fish or an animal. Police canvassed every county in the region, hunting for green trucks with decals. They tracked down dozens, then hundreds, but nothing matched perfectly. It was as if the truck, like the man, had vanished the same night Angela did. For Rob, the release of the sketch was another knife in the heart. He told reporters, "That's him. That's the man I heard Angela talk about." I'll never forget her voice when she said he was circling. But for every person who believed him, there were whispers that maybe Rob was deflecting, that maybe the sketch was only a distraction from the uncomfortable truth. Rob was still under suspicion, living in a nightmare where he had lost Angela and was being painted as her possible killer. Angela's family clutched the sketch, begging for answers. Her mother said tearfully, "If you know this man, if you've seen this man, please tell someone. We can't live in this hell anymore." But even as the plea spread, the silence remained deafening. Some believed the sketch was the key, that the stranger was real and out there, watching, waiting. Others believed it was a red herring, that the answers lay much closer to home. Theories split the town in half. Trust crumbled. And still, Angela was gone. And then came the most chilling revelation of all. Angela's abduction, the green truck, the scruffy man, might not have been unique. Another case, eerily similar, was uncovered in a nearby county. Could it be possible? Was Missouri dealing with not just a face, but a serial predator who had been hunting women for years? By the end of 1991, the case of Angela Hammond had already consumed Clinton, Missouri. But investigators were beginning to see something far more sinister. Angela's disappearance didn't exist in a vacuum. It fit into a pattern. A terrifying possibility that chilled even the most hardened detectives. Could Angela have been the victim of a serial predator? The first connection came from a small town not far from Clinton. In January 1991, just 3 months before Angela vanished, another young woman reported being followed late at night. She described the man as scruffy, with glasses. She described his vehicle as a green pickup truck with a decal. She managed to get away, but her description matched Angela's almost exactly. Then, in another Missouri county, a teenager had been abducted in 1989. She too was last seen near a road, with witnesses describing a truck. Her body was never found. The cases piled up. Women stalked at payphones, trucks circling parking lots, girls disappearing into the night. Each case alone seemed like coincidence. Together, they painted the picture of a predator who had been hunting for years. Someone organized, someone patient, someone who knew how to vanish as easily as he appeared. The FBI profilers working Angela's case issued a chilling assessment. This offender is escalating. He may have attempted abductions before. Angela's case may not be his first, and it may not be his last. The implication was terrifying. If Angela's abductor was a serial predator, then she was part of a larger story, one written in fear and silence across Missouri. For Angela's family, these revelations were unbearable. Her mother sobbed in an interview. If he's done this to other girls, then how many families are like us? Waiting, praying, never knowing? It wasn't just about Angela anymore. It was about the possibility of countless other daughters stolen in the night. Clinton changed. Overnight. No woman walked alone after dark. Every green truck was followed, reported, or confronted. Children were warned not to stray from their parents. Sight. The once peaceful Missouri town had become a place of suspicion, whispers, and fear. And then, investigators received a lead that sent shockwaves through the task force. Another abduction, eerily similar, had happened just hours away. And this time, the victim had left behind more than silence. A clue. Something that could finally tie Angela's disappearance to a predator roaming the highways of Missouri. For months, the search for Angela Hammond had felt like running in circles. Every road seemed to lead to a dead end. Every clue dissolved into dust. But now investigators had something new, something concrete, a lead that might finally break open the case. In a neighboring Missouri county, police had been working their own missing persons investigation. A young woman, around Angela's age, had been attacked outside a convenience store. She survived, barely, and her description of the attacker was chillingly familiar. A scruffy man, glasses, driving a green pickup truck with a decal on the back window. It was almost as if she had been describing the exact man Angela mentioned. Before she vanished, the woman told investigators she had been walking to her car when the man pulled up beside her. He asked her for directions, his voice low, his eyes hidden behind glasses. When she leaned away, uneasy, he tried to grab her. She fought back, screaming. And in that moment, headlights from another car turned into the lot. The attacker panicked and sped away. She was left shaking, but alive. Her description was nearly identical to the composite sketch from Angela's case. Detectives compared notes. Both victims were young women. Both were targeted at night, near public places. Both described the same man. Both mentioned the green truck. For the first time, investigators felt they weren't chasing smoke. They were chasing a man who had left behind patterns that might finally catch up to him. Then came another tip. A farmer outside Clinton reported seeing a green pickup parked near a remote road the night Angela vanished. The driver sat inside for nearly an hour, as if waiting. When the farmer's truck approached, the man drove off fast, disappearing into the woods. The location was close to where police believed Angela might have been taken. It wasn't proof. But it was something. For Angela's family, the new lead was both hopeful and cruel. Hopeful, because maybe, just maybe, they were closer to finding her. Cruel, because each new detail only painted the picture of a predator who had stalked their daughter before snatching her into the night. Her mother said quietly, "We just want to bring her home. That's all, please. Just bring her home." The new lead gave investigators direction, but it also raised a terrifying question. If Angela's abductor had struck before and tried again after, then he was still out there, still driving the highways of Missouri, still hunting. And no one knew or where he would strike next. The green pickup truck had become more than a vehicle. It was a phantom, a rolling shadow that haunted every highway in Missouri. For investigators, it was the single thread connecting Angela Hammond to other victims. And if they could pull that thread, maybe the whole mystery would finally unravel. The FBI and Missouri Highway Patrol launched an unprecedented search. Every registered green pickup in multiple counties was cataloged. Officers went door to door, asking about decals and rear windows. Mechanics were interviewed. Had anyone recently repainted or altered a green truck? Junkyards were scoured for pickups that had suddenly vanished. It was a massive operation. But it came with one huge problem. There were hundreds. Too many green trucks on the road. Detectives began narrowing down the list. Who had criminal histories? Who matched the sketch? Who had been near Clinton the night Angela vanished? Slowly, the list shrank, from hundreds to dozens. But still, no single man stood out. It was like chasing a ghost with tire tracks. The detail that haunted everyone was the decal. Witnesses swore it was something unique, possibly a fish jumping from water, or an animal symbol. It was rare enough that finding the exact truck should have been easier. But no match surfaced. Some investigators began to whisper a new theory. Had the abductor removed the decal right after Angela's abduction? Had he repainted the truck? Destroyed it? It was the kind of chilling foresight only a seasoned predator would have. While police searched the highways, Rob's life unraveled. People still whispered his name in town. Some said the green truck was a distraction, that Rob's story didn't add up. Every time he walked into a store, he felt eyes burning into him. He had lost Angela. He had lost their unborn child. And now he was losing the town he had called home. By late 1991, Angela Hammond's case had gone national. America's Most Wanted aired her story, broadcasting the sketch and the green truck across the country. Hundreds of tips poured in. Green truck spotted in Kansas, Oklahoma, Arkansas. But each tip ended the same way. False alarms. The green truck was everywhere. And yet, nowhere. And then, a chilling theory began to spread among investigators. What if the green truck wasn't just transportation? What if it was bait? A lure that the predator had used again and again, knowing it would stick in the memories of witnesses. If that was true, then the green truck wasn't the end of the mystery. It was only the beginning. Months had passed since Angela Hammond vanished from the payphone in Clinton, Missouri. The search for the green truck had stretched across counties, states, and highways. But finally, investigators had a name. And that name carried with it a trail of violence. The suspect was a convicted criminal. His name had crossed police desks before. He was known for stalking women, known for his violent temper, known to drive a green pickup truck, and most chilling of all, his timeline matched the night Angela disappeared. As detectives dug deeper, the man's past looked like a roadmap of fear. He had served time for assaults on young women. He had been spotted near towns where other attempted abductions had taken place. In one case, a victim described his truck, eerily similar to the one Angela's witnesses had seen. He wasn't just a suspect. He fit the profile perfectly. When word spread that police had a name, Clinton erupted. Some felt relief. Finally, the predator had a face. Others felt fury. Why hadn't he been stopped earlier? How many lives could have been saved if justice had come sooner? Angela's family clung to the hope that this was the man who had taken their daughter, that finding him might finally bring her home. But there was a problem. The man was slippery. He moved constantly, drifting between jobs and states. Every time police got close, he seemed to vanish again. And with no body, no direct evidence, everything hinged on circumstantial clues. The green truck, the survivor's description, the pattern of crimes. It all pointed to him. But was it enough? For Rob, the emergence of a suspect was a bittersweet moment. On one hand, it meant the finger of suspicion might finally point away from him. On the other, it meant accepting the devastating truth. Angela had likely been murdered by this man. She was never coming back. The hope of finding her alive was fading. As investigators built their case, they faced a chilling reality. Even if this was their man, he might never face justice. Without Angela's body, without undeniable evidence, he could slip away again. For Angela's family, that was the cruelest truth of all. To know her killer's name, but not to see him punished. And then came the most haunting revelation yet. The suspect wasn't just connected to Angela. His name had surfaced in multiple cold cases across the Midwest. Could this man have been more than just Angela's abductor? Could he have been a serial killer who had stalked America's highways for years? It had been months since Angela Hammond's voice was last heard over the crackling line of a payphone. Her scream, her fear, her final words to Rob, all still echoed in the minds of those who loved her. But answers never came. And that silence, more than anything, was the cruelest truth of all. Angela's family clung to hope for as long as they could. They prayed she might still be alive, that she might return one day, walk back through their door with the same bright smile she'd carried her whole life. But as years turned to decades, hope became harder to hold. Her mother said quietly in one interview, every time the phone rings, "I think maybe it's her. Maybe she's calling home." The ache of not knowing, of having no body to bury, no grave to visit, became a wound that never healed. For Rob, life was never the same. He had been a young man in love, planning a future with Angela. In one horrifying night, that future was ripped away. Worse, he became the subject of whispers, accused by some of playing a role in her disappearance. Even when police shifted focus to the stranger, the shadow of suspicion never left him. Rob carried two burdens: the loss of the woman he loved, and the knowledge that he couldn't save her. Angela Hammond's disappearance became one of Missouri's most haunting mysteries. Her case aired on America's Most Wanted. Her face appeared on missing posters across the country. Her story was told in books, documentaries, and endless conversations among true crime investigators. Yet, no body was found. No man was convicted. No justice was served. For the people of Clinton, the night of April 4th, 1991, changed everything. Parents became stricter with their daughters. Young women avoided walking alone at night. And the image of a green pickup truck became burned into the town's memory. The case was more than a mystery. It was a warning. Angela Hammond was more than a victim. She was a daughter, a fiancé, a young woman with dreams of raising a family, living a quiet life, and building a future. Her life was stolen in an instant, but her memory endured. Her family, her friends, and the countless strangers who heard her story kept her alive by speaking her name. And still, the question lingers. Who was the man in the green truck? Was he a drifter who vanished into the night? Or was he someone who had lived among them all along, hiding in plain sight? More than 3 decades later, the mystery endures. The trail may have grown cold, but the story of Angela Hammond still burns as a reminder of the fragility of life, the cruelty of fate, and the haunting silence of unanswered questions. Angela Hammond's story is not just a cold case. It is the story of every family who has ever waited by the phone, prayed for a knock on the door, and lived in the torment of never knowing. And until the truth is found, America will never forget the girl who vanished from a payphone in Clinton, Missouri.